the toughest gang of teenage girls ever to slash their way across a motion picture screen.
Switchblade Sisters is the tragic tale of acceptance, defiance, jealousy, passion, deception, betrayal, and anarchy. It's the drive-in style telling of Othello with drive-in style dialogue.
I'm really hungry. Oh, she's hungry. Look out! They caught a piggy! What'd I do, Lace? Squeal! Wait! Louder! Oh! Wait! Oh, is Donut a piggy? Yes, Jesus, I'm a piggy!
The part of the piggy will not be played by Amy Schumer.
Do you honestly think you're fucking funny?
Meet the toughest gang of teenage girls ever to slash their way across a motion picture screen.
One of my first introductions of B-movie trash was through Quentin Tarantino, who loves these movies and opened my eyes to some things that I do in fact agree with. A-list actors and big Hollywood budgets are not always what make a movie great. This movie originally came out in 1975 and was not a success. It had several names over the years depending on where and when it was re-released, or re-released. The Jezebels, Maggie's Stiletto Sisters, and The Warriors 2, Los Navajeras.
Not what he said, you ignorant wretch. Spanish is worse than your English.
Maggie's Stiletto Sisters? That's the worst name ever. Sounds like a Neil Breen movie. In fact, when you type in Switchblade Sisters into IMDb, Maggie's Stiletto Sisters come up. Not only is it a really dumb name, but it gives away most of the plot of the movie. I admit that even before Quentin Tarantino re-released this under his Rolling Thunder Pictures, the name is what hooked me in. Also, I'm a huge fan of The Big Dollhouse, starring Pam Grier, which was also directed by Jack Hill, who also directed this movie. At first you think it's going to be another slightly campy exploitation movie like The Big Dollhouse. The first scene is my favorite, where we're introduced to Lace, the leader of the Dagger Debs. 1 second she's putting on perfume and trying to look cute in the mirror, and then she throws something at a giant rat that happens to be in the same room. The next scene is an awesome setup, where Lace decides to go after Repo Man, and the rest of the Dagger Debs ambush him in an elevator. This is our introduction to the Dagger Debs. Great stuff. As the plot unfolds, you eventually realize that most of the people in this movie are vulnerable in some way. They are almost prisoners of their own larger-than-life ego personas. Lace, the leader of the Dagger Debs, is also the girlfriend of Dominic, who is the leader of the Silver Daggers. All of these gangs control a high school that is populated with 20 and 30-year-olds. This is something they used to do in the 70s. I used to watch stuff on TV and think that it was going to look just like I was 30 in a few years. And then when I went to high school, I was confused why nobody looked old like that. They always used adults and tried to pass them off as high school kids. It was kind of annoying, to be honest. Oh, and all of the teachers in the school are spineless jellyfish. The cops always kind of hide off screen until the plot needs them to show up. Let's just call them Keystone Cops. Let's look at the members of the Dagger Debs. We got Lace, Patch, Donut, Bunny. Then Maggie shows up as a transfer student. Patch decides to pick a fight with Maggie, and then Maggie kicks the shit out of Patch, but also impresses Lace. So of course the police show up, the first time, and drag all of them off to jail. Now we have the typical women in prison tropes. Yes, I watch lots of women in prison movies. I am a sick man. The main lesbian guard decides to attempt to abuse Maggie, and the Dagger Debs decide to help her out. When we get a long fight with lots of boobs flapping in the wind, great stuff. Maggie gets released before Lace, and Lace gives Maggie a few errands to do until she gets out. One of those errands is to give Dominic a message. Now why Maggie would show up in the gang house full of only men, I will never know. But she does deliver the message, and some of the guys grab the note and read it, only to find out that there's a love poem. Then guys start making fun of Dominic. Also, Dominic decides to follow Maggie home. Here's where the movie takes a dark turn, and I was severely hesitant to even cover it in this review, but I had to mention it because I think this is why the movie was not better received when it came out in theaters. Dominic follows her home and rapes her in her bedroom when her parents are home. It's very glossed over, and the parents never really find out that a rape actually happened. Dominic just kind of casually walks out of the building like it's nothing. Maggie is finally released from jail and reunites with Dominic and tells him that they are going to have a baby. Dominic wants nothing to do with it and tells her to go get an abortion. This is way too dark for a campy gang movie. Also at this point, Patch is really getting her nose out of joint because after all, Patch lost an eye to get into the gang. Of course Maggie wants to into the gang, but she has to pass a trial to get in. Let's look at Patch for a second. She is obviously the direct inspiration for this scene in Kill Bill. The trial just happens to be that Maggie has to bring Lace the medallion worn around the neck of a rival gang leader, Krabs, who happens to also be the head of a youth outreach program that pretends to get kids off of drugs, but actually sells drugs to kids. This plot is amazing. I wish I could tell you the movie explored this subplot more, but it never happens. Krabs looks like Elton John on crack. Look at this fucking guy. Wow, the 70s, man. That's all I can say. Maggie goes to Krabs' outreach center, seduces him, and snatches the medallion. Krabs retaliate by shooting Dominic's brother and gang raping one of the Debs. Again with the rape. Can this movie get any darker? The Dagger Debs and the Silver Daggers orchestrate a hit on an old school 1970s disco flavored roller rink with an old fashioned pipe organ playing music. This scene is pretty action packed for a low budget gang movie. Sadly, Dominic gets killed and Lace hits the ground stomach first, landing her in the hospital and causing her to miscarry. While Lace is in the hospital, Pat shows up, and it turns out that the hit was an elaborate ruse to get Maggie to accidentally killed in the crossfire. It was revenge for Maggie allegedly stealing Dominic even though he fucking raped her. Gang logic. Of course, Patch agrees to keep this a secret, but it's pretty clear that Patch has political aspirations of her own. I mean, she lost an eye for this organization. At least she didn't lose an eye to some space cat and then honey dick a bunch of Marvel movie fans. Oh no.
Motherfucker.
Also, now Maggie has assumed control of the Dagger Debs while Ace is recovering. She changes the name to the Jezebels and kicks the rest of the Daggers to the curb. She also joins forces with Muff, who happens to be the leader of a militant African-American gang from across town. They have the firepower and the will to ambush Krabs for good. Now this movie turns into Mad Max. Look at this fucking tank. Where do you hide something like this during the day?
Fuck if I know.
Of course, the ambush is successful, but Lace wants to end Maggie by trying to convince the gang that she is the traitor. The gang is not convinced, so they decide to end the argument with a knife fight. Maggie fatally stabs Lace in the throat, and the Keystone cops show up. The Jezebel starts sounding off like they're trying to do I am Spartacus thing, but when Patch tries to call herself Jezebel, the other gang members disavow her. The movie ends on a very bloody Maggie promising a sequel that never got made.
Let me give you some advice.
No. Let me give you some advice, cop. You can beat us, chain us, lock us up. But we're gonna be back, understand? And when we do, cop, you better keep your ass off our turf, or we'll blow it up! You dig? Jezebel, cop. Remember that name. We'll be back!
I like this movie, but I don't love it. My main problem with the movie is its inability to pick a tone and stick with it. It's campy at the beginning, then it's super depressing, and then it tries to be campy again. I can get over the amateurish dialogue, but it's almost like the movie is shaming itself at times. If it wants to be serious, or embrace being campy. Just pick a lane and stay in it. Rape and abortion are some pretty serious tones for somebody who directed The Big Dollhouse. If you're going to discuss topics like this, you need to investigate them further, rather than just glossing over them like the film does. I am not saying these topics don't belong in the movie, I'm just saying that these tones don't fit in a movie that straddles a line between camp and comedy. I will, however, agree with Tarantino in that after a while you kind of start to care about these characters. They are not just cartoon cutouts of stereotypes. Lace's motivations are clear. She loves Dominic, In her eyes, Maggie stole everything she ever cared about. Maggie appears to be the hero. However, while she didn't exactly steal Dominic, she did in fact steal the dagger Debs and turned it into the Jezebels without her permission. Muff was willing to put racism aside and join forces with the Jezebels to attack a common enemy. And in the end, Maggie turned out to be the most violent one in the gang. I give it 3 out of 5 cheese curds. Velveeta. The costumes, the dialogue, and overall decent plot with some interesting subplots actually work well for me. It's still fun to watch, but I have to remove a cheese curd for failing to stick to a tone, and another one for glossing over such dark topics as rape and abortion. I'm Adam with Raiders of the Lost Flicks. Remember, if it's a bad movie, we want to know about it. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining. Please remember to depress that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you'll be the first to know when new content is published. Please visit raidersofthelostflicks.com for more hilarious entertainment and links to all of our social media platforms. Also, consider supporting us on Patreon. As little as $1 a month supports our worldwide digs for more Lost Flicks. Thank you, and have a groovy day.